What is up, people? It is me, Monster58. Welcome back to another video review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Thundercracker. Obviously, this is more or less a slight repaint and retool and remold of the original Transformers Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Starscream, which is no surprise, as the Seekers always tend to just be repaints and remolds and retools of one another. But obviously, when it comes to Thundercracker, we didn't see him all that much in the movie. I think we saw him for maybe a few seconds in total, but I really did like his design, and I really did like Starscream's design. Now, when it comes to this mold wasn't exactly well beloved. It was actually kind of criticized heavily, particularly for its lack of articulation, and that certainly is still apparent here, but obviously when it comes to a repaint, remold, and retool, there's room for improvement, and I'll tell you this right off the bat, in my opinion, they did do a good of improvement here, specifically with the looks. In my opinion, I think they did a really good job with that, and we'll obviously get into it when we get into the full review. But here, taking a look at the box here, you can obviously see the nice Transformers, the Studio Series, the Transformers 1 logo right there. Thundercracker right there across the bottom. Obviously, he transforms in 29 steps. You have the nice artwork there of Thundercracker in his robot mode, as well as in his Tetrajet mode. Then you have the nice artwork here on the side with the Transformers Studio Series. You can see the Deluxe Class, and then Deluxe Class in several different languages. Then you can obviously see the more nice artwork that we saw on the front here, and then you can see your obligatory product shots on the back. You can obviously see the one frame. They even got it blurry because he didn't appear that much in the movie. And then you can obviously see, again, the nice product shots here on the back. And so, when it comes to the box, I think Hasbro did a fantastic job as per usual, folks. And so without further ado, alrighty folks, here we have the Transformers Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Thundercracker out of the box and in his jet mode. And guys, I gotta say, I really do like how the blue looks better on this guy. There is slight molded differences and stuff like that, particularly in the wings, and you'll see that here when I bring in Starscream. And so I'm actually just gonna bring him in because obviously when it comes to the fact that he is just a remold, retool, repaint, might as well compare him alongside the actual mold that we are comparing him to. Alright folks, and here he is with Starscream. As you can see, Thundercracker doesn't come with this weapon here, this weapon on the top, and so you can see that. And you can see the major difference is really with the wings. The wings here are completely different, they're brand new mold, but the rest of it is basically the exact same. The only other difference that you can really see is the fact that Thundercracker doesn't come with this gun, and in addition to that, he comes with these chain guns, which are very similar to the Neutron assault rifles that they had in the in Transformers Fall of Cybertron when they redid them from War for Cybertron, and then Starscream has his regular null rays and everything like that. And so there's really not that much molded in, differences besides the big wings and obviously the head sculpt. But these two do look nice together, and I really just kind of like how Thundercracker looks over Starscream. Although I do think that the Starscream's alt mode does look good as well. I don't know. Something about this alt mode just speaks better to me. And in addition to that, when it comes to Thundercracker's blue, this is a much deeper blue, especially when you're comparing it to the SS86 one. The SS86 one's a bit brighter, more vibrant. This is certainly a deeper, darker, more rich blue than the sort of bright and vibrant one of the SS86 one. But yeah, when you're comparing these two, again, the only major differences really are the fact that Thundercracker doesn't come with this little weapon. He doesn't come with this weapon either. And then he also comes with chain guns instead of null rays. And obviously the other molded in differences are the wings. But for the most part, you can look all around here. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. And so that also means that the transformation is basically exactly the same. And so when it comes to the jet mode, I think he did a good job. So we'll just set this guy out to the side here and take a look at the details. You can obviously see these two this looks really, really nice. The nice sort of gold for the cockpit here, the gold yellow. You can see the nice blue across the board. The gunmetal grays is different types of grays. The chain guns are also this gunmetal gray. The gunmetal gray just looks really, really good across the board here, especially with the blue and the red. Just really clean, and I kind of like that they didn't add this weapon and they didn't add the weapon on the bottom, because at the end of the day, this gives Thundercracker a little bit of a more unique look. And overall, when it comes to how this guy looks, you can see the nice jet boosters on the back. Just looks really, really solid. I'm just really, really happy with it. And so, folks, without further ado, we're going to set this guy off to the side here, and we are going to be doing a couple of size comparisons. I already brought in Starscream, so we're not really going to bring him in again. Alright folks, here he is with the Transformers Legacy United Infernac Universe Deluxe Class Magnus. As you can see, very similar to Starscream. He's obviously basically the exact same size as Starscream. And so when it comes to him, he's an average deluxe size, and I have no complaints there. And then here he is, folks, with his eventual leader, Transformers Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Megatron. Alrighty folks, when it comes to the transformation is basically the exact same thing as Starscream. The only difference is how you really do the wings, but even then you don't really move the wings like you do Starscream, so you can just more or less keep them the way that they actually are. You just kind of have to untab them. And so if you're looking for the original transformation, I'm going to provide a link in the upper right, as well as in the video description, to the Transformers Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Starscream review, if you wish to look at the transformation there. But with a little bit of editing magic, we are going to be taking Thundercracker from looking like like this in his vehicle mode, and into this in his robot mode. And guys, when you're comparing him to his on-screen counterpart, he looks really good. And the one thing I really like about him is, and what they did with the Seekers in Transformers 1, is their differences in head sculpt. When you see Skywarp too, Skywarp not only has the visor very similar to what we have here with Thundercracker, but he also has like a face mask. And I really like that because it kind of differentiates them a bit more, gives them a little bit more individual character, and as opposed to giving them, just, oh, they're repaints or they just kind of look like one another. Well, they still obviously do look like one another. At the same time, giving them that extra little detail is really cool. So what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to also bring in Starscream here, because at the end of the day, that's who we're going to compare it to. And here he is with Starscream. And so as you can see, the major differences you can see in the head, you can see it in the wings, and obviously you can see it in the chain guns as well. But other than that, they're pretty much the exact same. So overall, when it comes to the actual looks, again, I just kind of prefer how Thundercracker looks. Although I do think that Starscream is very accurate. I know a lot of people weren't a fan of the head sculpt, but I think it was accurate how it appeared in the film. At the end of the day, these guys look really good together, regardless of whether you like the Starscream design or not. I think they just look really good together, and it'll be nice to have another trio of Seekers. This is probably like my third or fourth, almost fifth trio of Seekers that I have in my collection, but these guys look really, really good. So overall, you can see the major differences again in the wings, in the head, in the chain guns themselves, but that's really about it. And again, that Thundercracker doesn't come with these weapons here that we see here with Starscream. But again, I mean, you spin these guys around to the back, and they're basically the exact. Actually, I forgot to fold these up, so I apologize for that. But you even see here on the back. Oh, whoops, I didn't. I'm stupid. I'm sorry. Right there. Even when you spin it around on the back, again, the only major difference really is the wings versus this. You can obviously turn the wings around like you did for Starscream, but I like keeping them like that for Thundercracker. I think that just gives him a cool look overall. But again, at the end of the day, these two just look really good together, but I do prefer Thundercracker's look. So we're going to remove Starscream here. Take a look at the details here. You can see the head, really nice silver paint, nice visor as well. Just looks really good. I kind of like this very nice smirk he's got going on. Again, this blue is nice and deep and rich, and it just looks good with all this gray in the red as well. It just looks really nice. And then you come around here to the back, he doesn't really have that much kibble besides his wings and everything like that. He's just really clean. I really do like this and how Thundercracker looks. I think they did what they needed to do. The other thing I'd like to say is that they improved, at least for my copy so far. I haven't really had issues with the shoulder pads. For Starscream, I still have issues with the shoulder pads where they kind of tend to pop off and everything like that. But for this guy has really nice shoulder pads. Again, I've yet to see over time if that, gets ruined, but for now, at the very least, I've had no issues with the shoulder pads ever popping off really whatsoever. So, just looks really good all around. So, what we're going to do is we're going to set this guy off to the side here. We're going to be doing our couple of size comparisons. So, alrighty folks, here he is with the Transformers Legacy United Infernac Universe Deluxe Class Magnus. As you can see, he's a little bit taller than the average Deluxe, but he's basically the same size as Magnus. Only by like half a head or quarter of a head taller is he taller than Magnus. And then finally, with his eventual lead, the Transformers Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Megatron. Alrighty folks, for his articulation, and this is obviously where the figure still has a bunch of fault, mainly in the waist and in the lack of ankle articulation, but the head is on the ball joint, so you can do a full 360, you can do up and down, a little bit of giggy-to-goo, and side to side as well. Shoulders can do a full 360, but unfortunately, because of the wings, you can't really do the full 360. Elbows more than 90, rotation of the upper part of the elbow. No waist. You can kick forward about that far. You can kick back about that far. More than 90 at the knee because of transformation, rotation of the upper part of the thigh. And again, no ankle rocker pivot. So again, the worst part about this guy is absolutely his lack of ankle articulation and waist articulation. But other than that, he does look really solid otherwise. So I'm really happy with the looks in general. Alrighty folks, and now it's time to get into his reverse transformation. And just like the Starscream review, Starscream what I talked about earlier, if you want to see the reverse transformation, it's the exact same thing. So again, link down in the video description to the review or in the upper right, if I can put another link in the upper right to the same video. But regardless, it's in the video description if you can't find it in the upper right, if you wish to take a look at the Starscream review and see the reverse transformation. But regardless, we are going to be taking Thundercracker from looking like this in his robot mode and back into this in his jet mode. And so guys, for my final concluding thoughts on the Transformers Studio Series, Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Thundercracker, for a repaint, remold, and retool of another Seeker, this guy is a really nice and successful one. At the end of the day, the remold and retool in his wings, the paint looks really, really good. The new chain guns, instead of the actual null rays, very reminiscent of the Neutron Assault Rifle from Transformers Fall of Cybertron. This deeper, rich blue for Thundercracker, the new head sculpt, everything is really, really nice. Also, the improvements to just making the shoulder pads a little bit tighter, and with the lack of the other weapons that he has, it makes his transformation a little bit easier at the end of the day, despite it really not being that all different from the Starscream one. And so when we're looking at this figure as a whole, the biggest detriments to this figure definitely has to come with the lack of articulation, both in the waist as well as in the lack of ankle articulation. It really sucks, because when it comes to a figure at this point in modern Transformers, we expect even deluxe class figures to have waist joints as well as ankle rocker pivot. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at this figure to compare to something like the Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Gears, or the whichever one it was at the time, Gears is just infinitely way more articulated, and that's what we should expect out of a figure like this. And so it's quite unfortunate we weren't able to get that level of articulation in most of the Deluxe Class figures, let alone lack of a waist joint and lack of an ankle pivot here. However, they did make improvements, like I said. I think he does feel a bit tighter. The color looks better. I think it just looks better as Thundercracker than it does as Starscream, although I do think that both look really solid in terms of just their looks overall. Again, it's one of those figures where it's definitely form over function here, and I can't really be too mad about it, but definitely have to criticize where it deserves to be criticized. And so out of a 10, I'm giving this guy between the 7.5 out of 10, because I gave the original figure a 7, and so I think with the improvements, this is between the 7.5 and to an 8 out of 10. So would I recommend this guy? Only if you're picking up the Transformers 1 stuff. If you have the Starscream already, I'd honestly get it to complete the Seekers, but I wouldn't be surprised if he passed on it or wait for a sale to buy for this guy, because at the end of the day, for the full 27 or so bucks, almost 30, I don't think he's necessarily worth it, even though I do think that he is an improvement over the original mold. But I still like to have him, because I do want to get the trio of Seekers. I want to get Skywarp whenever they do Skywarp, and get that new head sculpt as well. Just overall, they made some nice improvements to him, make him feel a bit unique more to be Thundercracker. I wouldn't outright recommend him, but again, those are the only ways I would recommend him, again, on the sale, or if you're collecting the Transformers 1 figures, or just the Seekers in general. So, I did pick mine up IRL, so just like I picked up Kranix, I picked him and Kranix up on the same day, actually, so definitely be on the lookout at your local retailers here in the U.S., specifically Walmart is where I picked this guy up. If you're not in the U.S., look at an equivalent retailer to a Walmart, and this guy might be stocked for you already, so definitely be on the lookout there. But I did have mine initially pre-ordered on Big Bad Toy Stores. Leave a link in the description of that. Also, leave the links down below to Hasbro Pulse as well as Amazon if you guys wish to use those online retailers instead of hunting for this guy IRL. But just like I said in the previous video, if you do decide to hunt this guy IRL, I definitely wish you the best of luck and happy hunting on that front. And so, that's really it for the review. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Also, follow me on the socials. Those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.